This is Football at 4.
Football at 4 is powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. It is brought to you by Bet365. Whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Adam Caplan, co-host of Inside the Birds podcast, which you can find on all podcasting platforms or on their YouTube channel. Just search Inside the Birds. And Adam is back for a look at the Eagles and the Giants. They renewed their rivalry today. The injury report just came out. Adam Caplan is fresh. We see Darius Slay and Devonta Smith. They will both be out for the game. DeAndre Swift is questionable with an illness, but let's take a look at the injury status. We know Slay and now Smith will both miss this game. How are you, my friend? Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Mike. Yeah, we have a new intro. I noticed that. Same NWO music, but we have a new voiceover artist, so always good to hear. So, yeah, Devonta Smith wound up not practicing. The feeling all around the team was, as we were told, that he wouldn't play, and that's the case. He didn't practice. Told he came out of the walking boot or crutches after Tuesday, and they just kept him in the boot, actually, just to make sure that there's some healing there and keeping everything straight. So pretty optimistic he'll play next week. They got to get there first, obviously, to start practicing on depending on when their game would be for the playoffs. And then Slay, it could have gone either way. The good thing is, though, Mike, he did work this week. He got some work in, but he did not work today. So that's we'll have to look into that, why he didn't work today. But bottom line is he will not play. And when they take on the Giants on Sunday, by the way, the rain, looking at the forecast now, looks like, now we know it could change. Forecast has changed significantly out here. Right now, it looks like it'll stop raining by game time. But players don't like playing on that turf. We've heard that for years, and Slay will not be playing.
So Slay is out, and obviously that has been a interesting position with him out there. How have they handled Slay being out?
Yeah, Mike, that's going to be fascinating to see kind of what happens past this week. We know that Ringo and Ricks are kind of splitting time there opposite James Bradbury. Now, because Slay will have missed over a month, the question will be when he comes back, is he ready to play every snap? Because not only do the Eagles do this, what they do is they usually don't rotate their corners. When Slay and Bradbury have been healthy, particularly Slay, they rarely came off the field. Most teams don't rotate corners. So that'll be the question. Will be once Slay's back, do they start cutting down Bradbury's playing time? That's something we've talked about on our show recently. Would they consider doing that? And obviously, Mike, they have a major decision to make on Bradbury. I understand he signed for 2 more years. All the money next year is fully guaranteed, just under $11 million. But he's been so bad that they may have to make a decision they don't want to make, because asking him to take a pay cut is futile because he's owed $11 million. That makes no sense. It's just a matter of do they think these young kids could compete for it or not? But the bottom line is they're going to have to really address this position next season.
Yeah, and obviously, they got some young guys who have played on the opposite side there. I mean, are we suggesting that those guys have actually played better than James Bradbury? Do they give them a better chance to win than James Bradbury? They get Maddox back as well. They'll get Slay, so they should be fully healthy when they go into the playoffs. That'll be something interesting. Jordan Davis with the ankle. Zach Cunningham, will he be back this week as well and play?
Yeah. Zach Cunningham, the only issue is here, he's been cleared to play. Well, he was cleared to play for the Giants game, and on Saturday he had an issue, as we noted on our Sunday pregame show after their walkthrough. They downgraded him. So, barring a setback, he will be back in the lineup. That is huge. We know, Mike, we've got some interesting information on their defense, which we've not talked about. We're going to hold this for Sunday, but we'll give you a little bit of a hint. There are a couple reasons why the players are struggling so badly on defense. And it's obviously disappointing. They were almost, as I said on our show that dropped on Wednesday, they were almost non-competitive on defensive last week on that side of the football. That can't happen this time of year. It's embarrassing how bad they were. And look, Mike, people have asked me this week, do the Giants have a shot? Absolutely. When you lose to the Cardinals, you can lose to anybody.
Yes, you can. When you lose to the Cardinals, you could lose to anybody, which is an interesting thing. We talked about this. If you lose to the Cardinals one week and the Giants the next, does this team look at themselves in the mirror and have to ask different questions? You know what I mean? It's one thing, hey, we lost to the Cardinals. We lost to the Jets earlier in the year. It's like, those things happen. But if you lose back-to-back weeks to organizations like this, you might have different questions going into the offseason. What about the Giants? Where are they health-wise?
Yeah, they've got a couple guys who are hurt. So, boy, they seem more optimistic earlier in the week, but they're going to be without rookie corner Deonte Banks, who's been a starter at right cornerback. He's out with a shoulder injury. That's not good, obviously. And Jason Pinnock, who's been a really good story, he was claimed off waivers. He was a draftee of the Jets. He was claimed off waivers last August, and he's been a starter for him out of University of Pittsburgh, and he will not play with a toe injury. So you got two starters in their secondary not going to play. Looks like the weather's going to be clear when they line up at 4:25 on Sunday. So that means, when the Eagles throw it, they should have better success. So, Mike, that's the thing I did want to mention. The Eagles' offense can no longer carry this football team. If they needed to last year, they could have done it. Not this season. It's not good enough. It's looked better the last 2 weeks. They're still leaving some points on the field, but I would say this past game, they just didn't have it. They got ball control almost 2-1, Mike, against the Cardinals. Who would have thunk it? And that is going to be the key here is, Mike, they've got to slow down Barkley. Barkley, I know, has not had a good season, but he's had some really good games against the Eagles. And this is a huge game for him as he heads to free agency, so they got to slow him down. If they slow him down, the chances of them winning are pretty high.
Yeah. Barkley, by the way, was over at the Ocean Casino the other day while we were doing our show there. Maybe not as focused on the game as you would like there. But A.J. Brown spoke on Wednesday. Give us your thoughts on what came from A.J. Brown.
We're going to talk more about this in depth on Sunday with Jason Avant on our pregame show, but I'll give you just a little bit of what I'm thinking. I know I've known a lot about A.J. Brown from talking to Titans about him. Kind of a heart and soul of a football team guy, one of their leaders. We had noted that the Titans source told us that he was actually, some people thought with the Titans that he could have been more of a leader than Ryan Tannehill and Tannehill's quarterback. I mean, that's how special the guy was as a leader, emotional leader and all that. And look, we see some of this here, and why I appreciate him being honest about the freelancing or whatever that case may be. And Sirianni's quotes today were odd. That he was almost saying like it's okay. I didn't really understand how he could say what he said. I don't have it in front of me, but I listened to the press conference. I thought his reaction was a little bit odd because Mike, remember now, they freelanced that play, which the last play against Seattle. And Sirianni lied about that. I mean, he covered for him. I understand that. I know that A.J. Brown he appreciated that the head coach was covering for him, but that's the problem. You can't be doing that stuff. And who knows? Maybe they were freelancing other stuff in that game and other games. So Sirianni's got to do a better job of making sure this stuff doesn't happen. This is something we're going to look into. We know Nick's a terrific head coach. He's got a great record. I rarely criticize the guy. But this team has regressed, Mike. We all know what it's looked like. And players can't be doing stuff on their own. It doesn't work. You got to play within structure.
Yeah, I know a lot of people talked about. He said today something about, hey, they improvised. Really, he said the word improvise is not really accurate, that it's really more of an audible, but the word that he used made it sound like they're out on the playground doing whatever the heck they want. But he said it worked against Kansas City. They did it there. And this time they did it, and it didn't work. So he's essentially saying, because I think one of the things that were raising eyebrows at him was, well, wait a second. How often do you guys just kind of go off script on your own here? And is there any reprimanding? Does anybody care? And he's making it like, well, this happens all the time. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Well, see, okay, there's a difference what's called a sight adjustment. You know by particular coverage that you're going to adjust your route depending on what the play calls and what the coverage is. The sight adjustments are in all NFL offenses. That's not the question. The question is what you brought up, or is there a freelancing element where you do your own thing? That's what you're saying, and that's the concern. That's something we're going to look into. But this team is underachieved, and we'll talk more about it next week once we know who they're going to play, which almost certainly will be the Bucs. That's high probability they'll be at the Bucs next week. Now we won't know what day it could be. It could be a Monday night game. Who knows? There's a wild card game.
Yep.
A wild card week. We're going to have a Monday night game, so we don't know which day it would be. But the bottom line is this team's got some issues here. I'm a big A.J. Brown supporter, but I also want one more thing I want to mention before we move on here. The body language. I know he addressed it, but he didn't address it when I listened to the press conference, his little presser there, 12-minute or less yesterday. He didn't really say, well, you don't know what happens when I come off the field, but it's the body language on the field. This has been repeating. It's been a repetitive situation, Mike. That when you're a leader, and he is a leader for that football team, you got to be better. And I don't know that he quite understands that.
All right, Adam, let's look at some of the matchups that the Eagles can try to get going. And by the way, would you play the starters in this game, or would you just sit them all together?
Oh, yeah.
To play it like a bye week? No, you're saying play everybody?
Oh, yeah. Now what you do is, because I've talked to coaches about this over the years, they have specific people whose job is to watch the game or watch the score and let them know if the game is out of hand, then that's when you pull the starters. No, I mean, number one, there is something on the line, okay? Look, could Washington beat the Cowboys? Highly doubtful. They have a lot of players who are out this week, by the way. It's high probability that the Cowboys will win, but if the Cowboys lay an egg, and they're not a good road team, by the way, and the Eagles win, we know that they win the division. And of course they have something to play for. But I'm also going to be smart about it. That's what you got to be. And you know what's interesting, Mike? First time, and I don't know how, probably more than a decade, that coaches went on the record and said they are resting players. Coaches don't like doing that. In fact, I know coaches do not tell the players that. They don't want them thinking about it. Just interesting that a bunch of head coaches said that.
All right, so a couple matchups that you're looking at on offense then that you want to see get going against this Giants D.
Yeah, we'll go real quick here, Mike. So offensively, the first matchup, Goddard did pretty well. Again, with the weather looking like it's going to clear up. Now, assuming Swift, who did not practice today with the illness, will be fine to play. Usually, 9 times out of 10, these guys, they stay away from the team and they get healthy and they play on Sunday, assuming he's healthy. The offense is pretty healthy, Mike. That's not the problem. The defense still has injuries. So, to me, now here's the issue with Devontae Smith out. They go with the committee because they're not going to play Julio Jones a ton. With Julio Jones, Zacchaeus, and Watkins, unfortunately Watkins has got to play here. He's obviously been benched, Mike. So they go with the committee opposite Brown. Now that does hurt them a little bit. You know what you'd like to see? One more thing before we get to defense. Why can't they use Swift in the running game? What has happened? In the pass game. What has happened there? I know that Hurts doesn't like to check the ball down, but that's a bad excuse. You got to dial these plays up, and they have to design stuff. That's a bad coaching job by Sirianni and Brian Johnson. That's ridiculous that you make a trade for this guy, and he's a non-factor in the pass game. And defensively, Mike, before we get out of here, you can play passively against Tyrod Taylor. He brought the Giants back. In fact, they should have won last week, Mike. Mason Crosby missed a 54-yard field goal. If he hit it, they win the game. And they better not let Barkley run all over him. Their run fits have been terrible. They're diving at plays, and this can't happen. So, Mike, the Giants will spread them out with Wan'Dale Robinson, who's coming on, or Darius Slayton, who scored in the first match. He's had some good games against the Eagles. And Jalen Hyatt, the rookie receiver from Tennessee, could flat out fly. Waller didn't do anything until late in the game against the Eagles. But you look at those 4 pass targets, Mike, that would worry me without Slay. The Giants could hang in there, folks. I'm telling you, this is a dangerous game.
Well, it all happens at 4:25 right here, the final game of the regular season before the playoffs. As Adam mentioned, they could play Tampa. It could be Monday night, and we'll break it all down right here next week on Football at 4 on the Sports Bash. Thanks, Adam.
Thank you.
Adam Caplan, co-host of the Inside the Birds podcast, which you can find on any podcasting platform or on their YouTube channel. Just search Inside the Birds. I'm Mike Gill. This is the Sports Bash.